Welcome to Castles and Cryptids, where the hosts are stuck in a time loop, the castles are haunted, and the cryptids are as fuck. We are on take 1023 of time travel.
Pretty much. We have been attempting to re-record this episode for the second time for almost 2 hours.
Technology sucks. Everything sucks. I don't know how anyone achieved time travel when we can't even get stupid apps to work.
Right? And for everybody's information, we discovered listening back and trying to edit what we had already recorded that pretty much 2 hours of audio was messed up. So
it was pretty badly uneven. It was like, oh, I can hear me, but I can't really hear you.
Yeah. So we've been trying different things and trying to fix it for the last 2 hours, and we think we got it. So hopefully this works.
All for you guys, baby.
Yeah. So we're on Patreon, so this stops happening. Thank you.
Somehow they'll get us out of our time loop because we'll be able to upgrade our ancient technology that we own.
Yeah. If time travel is real, future me, please visit me right now and tell me how to record the best audio possible. Here's your chance. Oh, I didn't do it. Damn it.
Next year me. Yeah, it's like when you're like, future me is gonna hate editing this. Or whatever.
As it's happening.
Oh my god. Yay. Yeah. Sorry, I'm a little traumatized. We're here. You guys are here. Thank you for being here. And I'm sorry you had to hear about that, but we're keeping it real.
Yep.
About our time loop problems. It's like, well, we'll get to it a bit, but one of my favorite time loops has to be the supernatural one. Yeah. So that's what I go to, but
that's what this definitely felt like for the last 2 hours.
He wakes up every morning and that damn song is playing. It was the moment. Telling me what your eyes meant. Okay. Okay, we are here. We made it. We are a little late recording this episode, so that's why the stress was real.
Yeah.
But we have to keep it on time for you guys, our faithful listeners. We love all three. No.
And we discovered through recording this the first time that this is actually going to have to be spread over 2 episodes. So this is going to be part 1, baby.
Yeah, that's actually exciting. Because whatever, we've got we know we have more material. We don't have to be like, oh, we're skipping an episode, because we're not. We just love time travel, apparently.
It's going to be fun. It was a good one when we recorded it the first time, so I think you guys will really enjoy this, because it was one of the funnest episodes I think we've done in a while.
Past me really enjoyed it.
Yeah. The true crime ones aren't always the funnest, to do, but I feel like more and more I do the supernatural ones, those seem to be the ones that I'm the most excited about, probably because I don't know very much about different subject matters going into it. So I'm excited to do my research and everything like that.
That's so true. I like them. I like them a lot too. Yeah, even though I enjoy true crime, but yeah, exactly. It's like it can be depressing, and then you can end up. I mean, you'd be like, oh, I looked for a happy case, but there's not really, unless you're not doing anything violent. Which sometimes we don't, because I like to mix it up. And
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Also, speaking of dark cases, I think my brother said your cases have been dark of late. And I was like, well, it's true crime. You look for a good one, but they all suck. And then I said, our next one doesn't have anything to do with murders. So there you go.
Yeah. I just finished editing my notes for the next episode. Oh, well, I guess the one after part two of time travel. Um, and I might have to try and find a little bit more information, kind of like flesh it out a little bit more. But I am super excited for that one too.
Cool. I guess I gotta catch up to you then. I'm not done. Or not.
I
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a topic I enjoy almost as much as a really good heist.
That was a good one. That was really
Yeah.
and long.
Yeah.
We'll try not to make this one too crazy. That's why we cut it in half. It can be
Yeah.
daunting to look at a podcast and be like, I want to listen to that today. And then it's like 3 hours and 26 minutes. And you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
It's a,
exactly.
yeah, it's a Marvel movie.
You can watch the Zack Snyder cut or you can listen to our podcast.
Oh, don't get me started. I love the Zack Snyder cut. Okay, so you have some time travel education for us today.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
so I have a couple different sources that kind of use different techniques to classify time travel.
That is cool because you don't hear that so often. It's usually just like, is it real or could it not be real? Is it possible or
Yeah,
not?
exactly. So the first source is the first two sources actually are from kind of looking at it in like literature or like media. So they're mostly talking about like how these stories are portrayed in like movies, TV shows, and books.
Cool. Okay. Yeah. It's like kind of how it's evolved throughout pop culture and stuff.
Yeah.
I like
So
that. That was really
the
cool to
first,
see the witches episode too.
yeah, exactly.
Woohoo.
So the first source has four types of classifications of time travel, and it's from the crimereads.com website.
Crime what?
Crime Reads.
Okay.
Crime Reads. So they did their classifications based on what is actually traveling through time.
Cool. I like that. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So the first classification they had is seeing the future. So in seeing the future, they classify that as it actually being like information that's traveling through time.
Right. I kind of came across that too because it's like you're like time travel proof, and then you kind of fall into predictions and psychics,
Yeah.
and it's all kind of in the same vein.
Yeah. So on the Crime Reads website, they stated that this one was the most scientifically plausible and that it happens all the time at a quantum level. I have no idea what that means, but
Oh, that's what Marvel uses to explain anything scientific that has to do with time travel. Quantum
yeah,
mechanics for kids.
yeah,
No.
that's all you need to know. Quantum.
By the way, do you remember Popular Mechanics for Kids? That Canadian show?
No.
It actually was hosted by a young Jay Baruchel and Elisha Cuthbert, who went on to be pretty famous actors. I was like, holy shit,
Okay.
for them? Yeah, it was like a show about, it was like when Bill Nye was on and stuff. I don't know. I watched it a bit.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway.
So seeing the future is also kind of goes hand in hand with like prophecies and that kind of stuff.
Right. Yeah.
And in media, people connect with the communications from the future through things like newspapers, letters, radio, photographs, and especially the internet nowadays.
Yes, that's a whole big thing now is that it's like it's a whole nother level of evidence that could be faked that you have to really look at with a skeptical eye, the videos and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So this of their categories can be further split into two kind of subcategories based on whether or not you can change the future based on the information that you're seeing from the future.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Will the butterfly effect happen if you try and change something?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's cool.
Their second category, which I don't really agree with their explanation of it, but it's traveling to the future, which I think is one of the funnest, more interesting ones.
I think so. Yeah. And
Yeah.
and this is just the second type in the list, sorry?
Yeah.
Right. Oh, and you don't like their explanation of it.
Yeah, on the Crime Reads website, they put that this category, the future is often depicted as boring and because it's presented out of context, and that it's often just used as like a twist ending.
Hmm. Kind of like an overused movie trope where they just like
Yeah,
they're doing it so much.
it was
Okay.
all a dream or they traveled to the future, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Doesn't mean it's a less plausible form of time
Yeah,
in my mind.
or that it's boring.
Yeah.
So the third one is traveling to the past.
Yes, yes,
Um,
yes.
yeah.
That'd be cool.
So yeah, I want to, I don't know. I'm probably 50-50 on whether I'd want to travel to the past or the future.
Ooh, if you only had one choice, yeah, that'd be
Yeah.
tough.
Maybe the future, because I'd hope that at least in the future you could live. I feel like if I travel to the past, I just find multiple things to be angry about.
You're like, hopefully progress still keeps happening. Cross your fingers
Yeah.
as you fly into the future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So traveling to the past is Crime Read's website said it was typically the most interesting time travel stories. And some of the stories deal with like the ramifications on whether or not the past can be changed, and that this can be separated into the categories of like that you can change history, or there's something called immutable timelines. I'd say that's like where you can't change the past.
Right. It is, yeah, not the movable timeline. It's like,
Yeah.
if anyone's seen the new Loki, the Marvel show, it's like there's a sacred timeline, and if you do something that doesn't fall in with that one, they're like gonna be mad at you with the time police, put you in time jail.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a common. I feel like that's a common trope with can you change the past, especially in the movies. It's a lot of the time like, yeah, can we save the loved one or whatever?
Yeah.
Hmm.
And so the Crime Reads website's last classification, the fourth one, is time loops, which are pretty cool. Um, so they're typically can't be changed. What?
Sorry. Till you get stuck in one, then they're not so cool.
Yeah, like today. Um, you're unable to change like anything, any even like minor detail, and characters are stuck repeating the same actions over and over again.
Yeah, the whole like Groundhog Day be one of the
Yeah.
first.
And then that
But
opens up the whole thing too, I'd say, about like if you're watching a something like that, or that's a category, like whether or not the main people are like aware that they're stuck in a time loop.
yeah, it's usually like just the one titular character that knows.
Yeah.
They're like, ah.
Yeah, just typically like one person.
Oh, excuse me. Yes, yeah. We'll get to it more in my little segment. My littles. I don't know. I don't know why I said that. We'll get to it.
Yeah. So my second source is from quirkbooks.com.
Ooh. I think I've
Yeah.
heard of that question mark. I don't know.
Yeah. So they have three different like categories of time travel.
Okay.
And yeah. So their first category is called a single continuum.
Single
And
continual. Okay.
yeah. And in it, like, characters can change nothing. The events only ever happen in one way, and the only thing that changes is the character's perception.
Oh.
Yeah. So they aren't able to change anything and simply help cause the events that have already taken place. So the example the site used was from Harry Potter.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Yeah. So is it the third movie where
Yes.
Hermione has the time turner?
Yeah. Prisoner of Azkaban. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they're trying to save Buckbeak from getting executed, but they're in like Hagrid's hut and they hear like the axe go down and they assume that Buckbeak has been killed, but they don't actually see it. And then when they go back in time to prevent it, they're like outside and they manage to save Buckbeak. But in reality, they were on a single continuum. So there were like two versions of themselves that existed at that same time, and one pair of them was inside the hutch, and then the other pair was always outside and was always going to be saving Buckbeak. There was never going to be a chance that Buckbeak was going to die.
Right. Which is kind
Yeah.
of its own time loop because it's like which came first. They had to go through the first one and then go back and make the second one happen. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was always going to happen like that.
I did like that sequence. I think it's a cool concept for sure. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, so things are, fated to happen one way or another kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then also that line that Hermione has that I love where she's like, is that really what my hair looks like from the back?
Yeah.
I'd be like, you know what I mean? It'd be like, oh, is that really what my butt looks like? Or
Yeah.
from that angle. Yeah. Oh,
So the single continuum framework, um, it says that it tends to be fairly cerebral. So you have to like really be paying attention. And the events in every time period come together like puzzle pieces that only really make sense once the audience has seen like the whole picture.
right. Yeah. Because you're like, you only know so much in that first act. And then the second one, you see it from the other position. Yeah. That's
Yeah,
always interesting to watch those ones play out and fall into place.
yeah. So their second category is called fixed points. So these ones, characters can change like small things, but they aren't able to change or alter like the big events in history, the ones that have the largest impact on the future.
That reminds me of, but I'll get to it a bit, but like Outlander, because they do
Yeah.
try to alter some major things and they aren't able to. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I think
So
that
then,
one's pretty believable, right? Like, I don't know.
yeah,
I like it. Sounds legit.
yeah. So the third one that the Quirk books source had was the infinite alternates. Alternates. I don't know why that doesn't say like realities, infinite realities or something. Infinite alternates.
Okay. It
Um,
kind of reminds me of Loki again because they call anyone that does something that's against the sacred timeline, they call them a variant. So
yeah.
like that kind of reminds me of that for some reason. Yeah, interesting. Alternates.
Um, yeah. So
Yeah.
in these like stories, characters can change everything, and there is an infinite alternate framework. The plot is not constrained by any single event ever having to take place in a certain way or even at all, and that any action, no matter how small, can potentially spin off and create an entirely new version of reality.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Okay.
that's like full butterfly effect.
Right. Every change leads to a whole new reality.
Yeah.
Oh, well. Whether or not there's a sacred one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So no
Okay.
action, yeah, no action is so small that it couldn't change something big, and
Mhm.
nothing in that reality is like fixed. So everything could potentially be changed.
Wow. That's pretty bonkers to try and
Yeah.
think about. Yeah.
So the last source I have for the classifications of time travel is a more like scientific approach than like a creative one from like movies, TV shows, or books.
Right. Okay.
So this is from a physicist, Brian Greene, who is a professor of physics and mathematics at Columbia University and the co-founder of the World Science Festival.
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
Who doesn't love a good festival? My mom once
Uh,
started a science library in New Brunswick, and I'm so proud of her.
that's pretty cool.
Her science library. That's not the right word. I am not good at talking. Like a science museum, science center, whatever.
Oh, okay, like the Tellus World of Science.
Right, except we took an old unused jail and turned it into a science center.
Oh, okay.
It was cool. It had a shadow wall, all the fun stuff. It was, yeah.
Yeah. Had some hauntings. No.
Right? Because we left some of the old jail cells in the basement.
Oh,
That was
geez. Well,
good.
if you get rowdy in the science center, you get put in jail.
It was a good time. I had fun. Like we got to rip pieces off with crowbars and stuff when we were converting it. Like I was like, my mom's cool. She does some stuff.
That's fun.
Oh my god. She's catching up too. She'll probably get to this episode in like a few weeks, and then I'll hear about it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Um,
Anyway, I digress.
so yeah, for his classifications, he did Brian Greene. This was in kind of a article he wrote on Business Insider,
Okay, cool.
and he really only kind of classified time travel in two different categories, either traveling to the future or traveling to the past.
Oh, well, that's kind of boring. I thought time
Yeah,
wasn't
right.
linear. I
Yeah,
thought time was not a straight line. Yeah.
exactly.
Okay.
Um, so for the first category, he talks about traveling to the future, and the article did say that this has pretty well been like confirmed through science.
Oh,
Yeah.
through science.
Yeah, so this one's pretty much like theoretically already confirmed.
Excuse me. So like theoretically possible.
Yeah.
Cool.
So the pretty much the rest of this little like category I lifted directly off the Business Insider thing because after reading it a bunch of times, I couldn't figure out how to reword it. So I just copied everything he said because I'm not smart enough to rewrite it.
All right. So put this in a big quote mark.
Yeah. So for traveling to the future, he said, quote, "We know how to do it because Einstein showed us the way over 100 years ago. It's surprising how few people actually really know that this is in their bones. He showed that if you go out into space and travel near the speed of light and you turn around and you come back, your clock will be ticking off time more slowly. So when you step off, it's going to be the future on planet Earth. You will have time traveled into the future."
Oh, so like a astronaut, but astronauts would be like time travelers because once they're outside of like orbit, then their time's moving differently.
Yeah, I don't know how close they get to like traveling at the speed of light, but
I the only
because you
weird
have to achieve that and then turn around and come back.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I've heard about that. Yeah, time being warped in such a way that you're like, it's technically time travel because when you come back, you're like this whatever in the future. Ugh, I don't know. It breaks my brain whenever I try to think about
Yeah.
it. Ugh.
Um, Also in this category, it said, quote, Einstein also showed us that if you hang out near a nice strong source of gravity, a neutron star or a black hole, and you kind of get right near the edge of that object, time also for you would slow down real slow relative to everybody else. And therefore, when you come back to Earth, for instance, it'll again be far into the future.
Okay, yes, I did hear something to that effect with the mentioning how the gravitational pull affects it.
Yeah.
When I was listening to Keep It Weird podcast, they had a two-parter about time travel that was really interesting as well, as hopefully ours will be for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so bizarre and cool to think that we've like figured out how it works a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
So physicist Brian Greene, his second category, time travel to the past, has more to do with wormholes. And wormholes were again discovered by Einstein. So this entire episode topic is just like credit to Einstein.
did I mention I share a birthday with him?
Oh, really?
Yeah, March 14th. I'm just not as smart and my hair is a lot straighter.
Yeah, it's not
Wow.
crazy.
No, he's amazing. I
Yeah.
would, yeah, I would give up my hair for that level of knowledge, I think. I think. Sounds like it might be a burden, but
Yeah.
oh, crazy.
So for this category, it said, quote, it's a bridge, if you will, from one location to another. Or, sorry, it's a bridge, if you will, from one location space to another. It's kind of a tunnel that gives you a shortcut to go from here to here. Uh, Now, Einstein discovered this in 1935, but it was subsequently realized that if you manipulate the opening of a wormhole and put one near a black hole or take one on a high-speed journey, then time of the two openings of the wormhole will not take off at the same rate. So that you will no longer just go from one location in space to another. If you go through this tunnel, through this wormhole, you'll go from one moment in time to a different moment in time. If you travel one way, you'll go to the past and the other way to the future. Now, again, we don't know if wormholes are real. We don't know if they are real, whether you'll be able to go through them. So there are all sorts of uncertainties here. Most of us think that you're not going to actually go through a whirlwind journey through a wormhole to the past, but it's still not ruled out.
Okay. I have to think about someone demonstrating it that I saw that was like drawing two different, or like at least, let me try this again. That one makes me think of like drawing a dot on a piece of paper and then folding the piece of paper in half and showing how that dot is then on the other side of the paper, and that's how fast you could travel through time to another like dimension or world or whatever. Because like I don't know,
Yeah.
I'm visual and I'm like I have to picture that somehow, otherwise it just makes no sense to my little brain.
Yeah.
Oh, so cool.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So that brings us to my actual, I don't know if you call it a case, but
Yeah, story. Story time.
yeah, my story,
I love it.
my bedtime story. No.
I love a good anecdote, a little, well, not anecdote, but when it's not about you.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome.
So we're going to talk about Sir Robert Victor Goddard.
Sir
Yes.
Robert.
Sir Robert. He was the son of a doctor, and after he graduated high school, I think, he joined the Royal Naval Colleges and was a midshipman in World War II.
Okay, so
Eh,
he joined the Navy.
Yeah. So he then joined the Royal Naval Air Service.
Oh, wow.
He, yeah. He has like a whole bunch of different positions. I don't go through them all because it pretty much changed like every 3 years for his entire life. I didn't want to go through them all. But suffices to say, he was extremely respected in the Air Force. He held a whole lot of positions and was awarded with multiple awards.
Wow. Sounds
Yeah,
very well decorated.
yeah. So he early on in his life, he also studied at Cambridge, which is very impressive.
Oh, Cambridge, yes. Sounds like
He was also
right. Sounds smart.
involved. What?
It just said sounds like a smart dude.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he must have been extremely smart.
Yeah.
So he was also involved in not on like the ground fighting, but he was involved in World War II and Pearl Harbor.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah. Um, so well a RAF, which I assume stands for like Royal Air Force.
Yeah, the British one. Yeah.
Yeah, so well an RAF wing commander, he was on a flight from Edinburgh, Scotland, to his home base in Andover.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So during this one flight, I assumed he decided to take like a different route,
Mm,
maybe.
yeah.
So the route he took him over like a dilapidated, abandoned airfield in Drem.
Oh, okay. So it wasn't in
Yeah,
use. Mm-hmm.
yeah. It had been built during World War One and had been long abandoned. At this time, he was flying over it. It had been converted into a farm, and there was some like overgrown plants, kind of covering up some of the runways, and the hangars were all kind of like falling apart.
Oh, okay. Sounds like they were hoping not to use it after the First World War. They were hoping there wasn't going to be a second one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So while flying over the airfields, he suddenly, like his plane kind of hit like a storm out of nowhere. And he was caught in extremely high winds, and the storm had like brown yellow clouds surrounding the plane.
Oh no.
So yeah, terrible. The high winds and the like lack of visibility caused him to lose control of the plane, and it began like a free fall. And during this time he believed that he was going to die.
Oh no. I mean, yeah, probably same. I'd be
Yeah,
freaked out.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So just as suddenly as like this storm hit and he was like surrounded by it, he kind of like broke through it, and the sky suddenly became like clear and bright sunshine again.
Weird.
Yeah. He looked down and saw that he was still over Drem airfields, but it looked totally different than it had a few seconds ago. Yeah. The hangars all looked brand new. The airbase looked to be operational, and there were four airplanes on the ground on the runways. The planes, however, were like a bright, bright yellow, not the color of the RFA planes in use in 1935.
The RAF. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. He spotted three familiar biplanes, but one of the four planes looked unfamiliar to him. It was a monoplane, which the RAF didn't have in 1935. So they weren't using this type of plane.
Okay.
And the mechanics he saw on the ground, like around the planes, were all wearing like blue overall uniforms instead of the brown ones that he was used to seeing.
Yes, like everything's backwards. Bizarro world.
Yeah. Once again, the his plane was kind of like engulfed by the storm, and he was unable to see anything because of the clouds. And then he broke through once again on the other side. And when he looked down, he saw the airfield abandoned again.
Okay. So he had like gone through a patch of clouds, came out of that, saw the new like, or the different airfield and then gone back into the storm. And when he came out again, it was gone.
Yeah.
Okay. He's like, what the hell?
Yeah. So he continued on his flight back to his home base in Andover. So it's believed that he entered like a time slip for like a few seconds. Again, like this wasn't very long. It wasn't like he was there for a long time. It was probably only like 10 seconds or so.
Yeah, as if he just like passed through it and
Yeah.
out again. Ugh.
So it's believed that he entered a time slip, and there is some proof that what he saw was real, which is really cool. Yeah. So in 1939, RAF, so this was 4 years after his experience,
Mhm.
RAF did in fact paint their planes yellow, which
Which
is
is
pretty
such
cool,
yeah, it's such a specific color, I was gonna say, it's like
right?
you wouldn't have guessed that, I wouldn't think, because I'd be like, that's a visible color. Like you wouldn't paint them that color, and then you see it and you're like, all right.
Right?
So
Like
how
you
could
wouldn't expect any military to like paint a plane yellow.
yeah, it's obviously very different than the planes he was used to.
Yeah. Um, so at this time in 1939, a new monoplane was introduced to RAF as well, so assumed to be the plane that he saw on the tarmac that he didn't recognize. And
Okay.
at this time, the mechanics' overalls all also changed to blue.
Just like he saw.
Yeah. And
What?
in 1939, Drem Air Base was also converted back from a farm into a functional air base. So,
Okay. So like he didn't know he was he could have thought he was seeing the past the first time. He was just like it was
yeah,
different. How was I to know it was going to end up looking like that and being in use again? That's
yeah.
weird.
So, another experience he had, this I didn't find in like all of the sources I was looking at. Um, but I'd say it'd have to be true because there is a film based on it. Um,
Well, in that case, no. Just
yeah.
kidding.
Um, so this is all in quotes. I got it off of his Wikipedia. Um, so this is kind of different than him experiencing like his time travel, but it's still related, I think. More like a premonition.
Okay.
Um, so this is about another like officer that he was with. It says, quote, he claimed to have witnessed the clairvoyant experience of another officer in China during January of 1946. According to Goddard, he was at a party in Shanghai and was scheduled to fly to Tokyo that same night when he heard of another officer having a dream in which Goddard was killed in a plane crash. In the dream, an aircraft was carrying Goddard, two other men, and a woman when it experienced difficulties with atmospheric icing, and it crashed on a pebbled beach near the mountains. That night, Goddard was persuaded to take two men and a woman on the Douglas Dakota transport flying to Tokyo. As in
Oh
the
no.
other officer's dream, the Dakota plane iced over and was forced to make a crash landing on the Japanese island of Sado. The crash scene, a pebbled beach near mountains, resembled that described in the dream. Unlike the dream, however, no one was injured. So,
Oh.
some like Final Destination stuff right there.
Yeah. So the same guy that saw the flash of the future had the dream? Was that right?
No, he was told this, another officer had this dream about him
Okay, gotcha.
and like
Wow.
told him that he had had a dream that Goddard was going to die.
Hmm. That's weird because it could be like possibly. unrelated paranormal. Like it's hard to say.
Yeah. Um,
That's wow.
yeah. So as I said, this experience was like depicted in a film in 1955 called The Night My Number Came Up.
Ooh.
Yeah, creepy title. And Michael Redgrave played Goddard, who was depicted in the film as becoming, it said, excited as the plane made its crash landing. But this reportedly annoyed Goddard, who had been quite proud of what he had seen as his unemotional behavior when, like, having to make the emergency landing.
Okay, he didn't get freaked out enough, I guess, as they crashed.
Yeah, he like kept his cool and was able to like safely land the plane. So I guess it was more like dramatized um
Mhm.
for like the movie.
Yeah, no kidding. Seems a little bit of a stretch to get a whole movie out of that.
Yeah, right. Um
Wow.
so a bit later in his life, so Goddard did end up retiring in 1951. But he continued doing like lots of stuff after he retired. It was kind of crazy. He
Yeah.
became principal of the College of Aeronautics, where he remained until 1954. So, like another 23 years after, or no, 3 years after he retired.
Okay. Hmm.
He was also a governor of St. George's School, Harpenden, and of the Bryanston School, and was also president of the Airship Association from 1975 to 1984. So that's
Oh,
like 33 years after he retired. He was like president of an airship association.
yeah. The man doesn't stop.
Yeah. So
Wow.
during his retirement, he also encouraged a Sir George Trevelyan to set up the Wrekin Trust, a body which was promoting spiritual education in 1971.
Okay.
And yeah, this occupied a bunch of his time during his retirement. And through it, he became convinced of the reality of the world of like the spirit.
Oh, cool. I love
Yeah,
that.
and a throwback to our one Patreon, he also spent many years investigating and lecturing on flying saucers.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, on the 3rd of May 1969, he gave a talk on UFOs at Caxton Hall in London, in which he defended the paraphysical hypothesis. There was a quote on the Wikipedia about this that was like half a page long, and I kept trying to read it and I didn't understand any of it. So you can look it up if you'd like.
Yeah, I guess he was an early like forerunner in the UFO
Yeah,
investigator. Yeah,
yeah.
cool.
So Goddard wrote about extrasensory perception and other paranormal phenomena in his book Flight Towards Reality, which was released in 1975.
Wow.
Um, and a bunch of his claims, like in his life and his through his work, are disputed by like skeptics. Some articles I came across when I was trying to research him even like went as far as to say that like pretty much the entire story of him going through the time slip, but whatever source these people had gotten a hold of didn't have his name attached to it. So they kept being like, oh, this is some anonymous pilot, so you know it's fake because they don't even, nobody even released his name. So
Oh
these
my
people were
God.
just like lazy in researching it because his name is everywhere.
Wow. That's like, I don't know, you Google something and because you Googled this words and this word, it'll come up that way in your search. But if you don't click on the article, you don't know where those words are in relation to one another, and you might just read
Yeah,
it out of context and like,
yeah.
oh, this happened. Yeah, that's so lazy.
So one thing I didn't look up more is almost just as famous as his flight. which I don't think I even told you about when we were first recording this, is he had a picture taken, I believe it's when he was in the Air Force, and he's standing in like a crowd. It's kind of like a big community photo. So there's like 25, 30 of them in this picture. They're all like in rows.
Yeah.
And he is standing at like the back, and it's like zoomed in a bunch of them, because when you look at the right side of his head, when you're like looking at the picture, the right side or his left, there's like a shadow of a perfectly clear image of somebody's face right behind him, like over his shoulder, but there was nobody standing there.
What?
Yeah, it's extremely clear, the picture. Like you can see the shadow of it, like before the picture's like even zoomed in. You can see it's clearly there.
No, you definitely did not tell me that. That does not sound familiar. That's creepy.
Yeah. So if you look up, like when you look up his name, Sir Robert Victor Goddard, the first thing that comes up is the picture. But when you
Ooh.
dig more and keep looking his name up, it'll come up about like the flight he was on and everything. But the first thing that pops up is always the picture.
Well, that's the clickbait, I guess. That's crazy. You don't get good pictures like that all the time, so that makes sense that it would be.
Yeah, I'll put it. I don't think I had a picture of it to go on the website because it wasn't related. But now that I've mentioned it, I'll add it to the pictures for the website because it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'll put it on our Instagram too.
Yeah.
Ooh, that was
Yeah,
awesome.
I didn't originally include it because it's not really time travel related, but it's still an
God damn
experience
it.
he had.
Yeah, it's on brand for us, so it goes in.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's my segment. Woo.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay,
Yeah.
so mine's my heading was to myself, episode 15, time travel, bitches.
I like that. All I could think of was I think it's from Doctor Who.
Mm.
But I'm not sure and where I heard it, but it's a timey-wimey machine.
Oh, I
That's
feel
all
like
I could think of the entire time.
yeah, I've definitely heard that in different places. Timey-wimey, timey wibbly wobbly. Yeah.
Yeah. That's all I could ever think of. I was like, timey-wimey machine. And I was like, I don't even know how to spell that.
Oh, so we still don't know what we're calling this then.
I just have it labeled as time travel, but that's kind of boring.
Mm. Time loop. Join us on our time loop. No, I don't know. We'll think
Time,
of
time, time again.
we always think of something, whether it's stupid or not. No. Time again, yeah. Time and crime.
Time and no crime. Ain't nobody got time for that.
Ain't nobody got time. Period. Oh.
I hold on, I'm gonna Google time travel puns.
I also put on our Instagram. Oh, I don't think you'll get it if you've never heard Danzig, but it's a picture of him walking carrying kitty litter out of the store. And he has this song that goes, Mother, tell your children not to walk my way. And the meme says, Mother, tell your kitty litter's on the way.
Oh my.
So stupid. I loved it. All right, am I good? Good to go?
Yeah, these are kind of terrible.
Yeah. I got lots of dad jokes. I'll think of something.
Uh,
Time after time. I don't know.
Time after time, if you look, you will find me. Time after time.
I already pissed everybody off getting Men in Black stuck in their head with our bonus episode about
What?
Andy. Well, everybody was like, yes, well, on Instagram, right? They're like, yes, it's an awesome tune. It is stuck in my head now. Thank you. Oh, yeah. I listened to, it was cool because after we put that out, that was like 2 weeks ago now in real time.
Yeah.
And last week, like the week after, drinking the Kool-Aid ended up covering some Men in Black, and I was like, cool. And then
Oh,
like
that's fun.
it was really good. It was almost like sort of a deep dive on one of the ones you talked about with the boat and the man and his son, and
Yeah, that one was debunked.
I think it was that one they did like a deep dive on. Anyway, it was a good episode. That's all. Whatever.
Yeah.
My memory is terrible.
Before I forget too, on YouTube we got our first comments. If this wants to load. Oh, never mind. I went to the wrong file.
First call.
Um,
Uh-oh. I'm scared.
it was just a couple episode topic suggestions that I think are right up your alley.
Really? Topic suggestions?
Yeah.
Nice.
So I thought we'd give them a shout out if we decided to do it or not. Funny enough, I think it was like based on like something you said during in the episode. It was 2 different episodes. He commented 3 different topics on 2 different episodes.
Oh.
Yeah. So his username's Grand Muff Twerkin. Yeah.
It's a Star Wars
Just
reference
okay.
because there's Grand Moff Tarkin.
Okay. Well, this is
I'm so
Grand Muff
excited.
Twerkin.
Muff. Oh my God, I love you, Muff.
Yeah. His username or his avatar is just a dude in sunglasses. I don't know if he's also a movie reference or not. I'm not sure. But he had commented that we should cover demonic apparitions, demonic impregnation, and sleep paralysis.
I'm dying. Maybe because okay, so I've probably told you this,
Because you
but
had
yeah,
talked about the impregnation one and sleep paralysis.
yes, I mentioned it in not last week's episode, the
No.
Winchester one.
Yeah.
And then my sister was like, I had just offhand been like, oh yeah, this story I heard on whatever podcast. And then my sister was like, okay, I want to hear more about this story. Like, where did you hear that? And then I had to rack my brain because I'd listened to so many different podcasts that were like, friends with on Instagram and stuff like that. And I had been listening to a lot of them. And I was like, I don't know, which one was it? And yeah, eventually after like 5 days, I was like, oh my God, it was Drinking the Kool-Aid's episode on sleep paralysis. I
Yeah.
found
So
that would make sense.
Grandma Twerkin would like an episode about it, just so you know.
Aww. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess we gotta give the listeners what they want.
I thought it'd be pretty interesting. We could do that as an episode, I think.
Yeah, like
Sleep paralysis for sure, just overall could be its own episode. But
mhm.
demonic impregnation, I feel like, could be like a separate one too.
Yeah,
Because there's
all
got to be
about
more cases about that than just the one. Hey?
we're back.
Yeah. For part 2 of part 1.
It already does sound like we're caught in a time loop, right?
Yeah.
Even just now, I was like, well, we say it's going to be a two-parter, and then I'm like, I kind of forgot how much I had written because I just kind of was like, time travel, oh, more and different things. And then, like, even when I thought I was done my notes, then Pat was like, texting me at work, are you done your notes? Because I saw this thing today. So that's how we ended up with so much material.
Yeah.
Going and going. It's so nice to have audience interaction. Yeah, that's for sure. Because you're like, okay, like I feel like you get to know them. They comment on your Instagram, you comment back, you're like talking, you're like, because when I listen to podcasts, I know I start to feel like I'm their friend somehow. So it's nice when
Yeah.
they get to know you back a little bit. So yeah, we could do all about incubus and succubus. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, I feel good that it's nice to get like a listener recommendation. So yeah.
Yeah. When I saw it, I was like, oh, I'm like, Alana's actually gonna like those because she like offhandedly talked about them. So I put it in my little like episode idea list with his username and put that it was from YouTube so we can give him a little shout out. But
So, what I do love to talk about, as y'all know that have listened to the show from the beginning, because I pepper it in here and there, is I read Outlander.
yeah.
I got into that time travel themed, time travel themed, historical fiction, romance, whatever. It's the kind of book that they've really had a hard time categorizing at first because they were like, well, you'll have to say you're a romance. And she was like, I'm not really just a romance. I just wrote a book to see if I could write a book, and this is what it ended up being.
Yeah.
Which I love. She just like, that's why it's so creative because she wasn't like, oh, I care if anybody reads this. It basically started out like, can I write a novel? Let's see.
Yeah.
She can, let me tell you, she can. So, if you're not aware, it's about a woman named Claire who was just reunited with her husband after the First World War. She had been working as a nurse. He was kind of like a spy. And then they're on like a second honeymoon in Scotland, basically. And she ends up alone visiting a circle of standing stones that they had been at like the day before. And she had seen some interesting plants. And she was kind of into like herbology and stuff, like Neville from Harry
Yeah.
Potter. So she is going back for some flowers, is what it is. And then she ends up touching one of the standing stones in the circle. And she gets time traveled back. She gets sucked 200 years back in time, basically.
Oh, Jesus.
I think that's part of what I like about it is it's so like kind of fairy tale like in that it's like you're in one life and then you're like literally transported to a different one. Now deal with it. So, um, so yeah, her Diana Gabaldon, the author, has her own specific kind of lore. It's kind of the one I forget exactly what you called it, like in the time travel types part, but
Oh.
because
Um,
like they can't change the major things in her lore. Like they try to change like battles and like the Scottish uprising that failed to, throw off the British. Like she tries to like stop all the Scottish clans dying for Prince
yeah.
Stuart and shit like that. And she's not able to change the major things.
I think
Even though
that was the single continuum.
yes, that sounds correct. I was like, it's something like that continuum. So yeah,
Yeah.
but like they can change, like she's back in time and she's like a nurse and stuff, and so she saves people's lives and they live and they may not have if she hadn't been there, so she's able to change some things in a way.
Okay.
Yeah. And I like that the author also is like very candid about like, yeah, it's time travel, this is how it works in my head, doesn't mean it's right or wrong.
Yeah.
Like this is my time travel lore.
Doesn't mean Einstein would agree.
Yeah. Although, but she is very smart. Having said that, she does have a background in science and biology. So, like, having said that, I think that's what makes it a
Okay.
really fun read is that, like, it's not all, well, if this can happen, then this can happen. Like, friggin' Fast and the Furious. No. Okay, so in her lore, what I like is okay, so you maybe have to be at one of those like ancient type of megalithic places, like a stone circle, like Stonehenge, like something like that, and maybe where the ley lines converge. Like you have to be at a special place, and it also has to be at like a special time of year for the time travel to work. So I got my little pagan witches calendar out here. It's like, there's summer solstice, winter solstice. Like those would be good times of year to travel.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and then like I know I always say it wrong, but like the one that's Halloween modern now, but was like I always want to say Samhain, but I think it's pronounced more like Samhain or something like that. So that it's like the ancient Celtic and pagan festivals of like fire feasts, sun feasts. Just you have to be going at a particular time of year for it to work, which is cool. Um, and the other thing that seems to help you that they learn in the books is like if you're carrying a gemstone when you make the trip, it can somehow be like a protector for you. Because a lot of people would like touch the stones. Maybe they're trying to travel, maybe they're not, and they would just end up dead. Like,
Oh,
so
okay.
yeah, it's not a guaranteed type of time travel in her world. But she was heavily inspired by watching things like Doctor Who and enjoyed that show, which you
Oh,
mentioned.
okay.
Yeah. I really should watch Doctor Who. I mean, come on. Isn't there a David Tennant entire version that I need to see?
Yeah, he's one of the um
The
I don't
doctors.
know what they call it. Yeah, he's one of the doctors after he like regenerates or whatever every 4 years or something.
They always have good actors in that show. It's amazing.
Yeah, I feel like I'm one of those people, if I get into something, I need to get into it from the very beginning, and there's just so much between the TV shows, movies, everything.
That's
It's
right.
like a huge commitment. So,
Exactly. I'm the same way. I can't binge a podcast without starting at the beginning. And like we're talking about here, Diana Gabaldon, the author of Outlander, she like saw some of the 60s Doctor Who where they like went back and saw this like Scottish guy named James whatever, and that was like literally her inspiration for James Fraser. And you're like,
oh
whoa,
wow.
I know it's so cool. So that's my favorite time travel novels. But yeah, there's so many time travel movies. It's insane.
Yeah.
Some of my favorites, because like you can't just list them all, but Endgame, so Avengers Endgame. They
Yep.
have a time heist, as they call it. The Time Machine is classic. That's is it Christian Bale? I think in the Time Machine.
Okay. I don't think I've ever heard of that one.
Oh God. Okay. Now I want to Google. Really? Oh, okay. So it's like one of the ones where he's trying to change something because like his wife died, so he's basically going back trying to stop her death, but it becomes like a paradox because if she hadn't died, he wouldn't have invented the time machine to go back and try and save her, so he can never save her. It's very sad. Um,
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
one sec, I'm just double checking who's in it because I hate when afterwards people are texting me like like when I told you about the guy from the Big Lebowski, and I was like, he's in Secret Window, and he's like Spanish or Hispanic or whatever. And then my brother was like, John Turturro, and I was like, yes, John Turturro. um, okay, that time machine. That's not Christian Bale. It's Guy Pearce. It's not Christian Bale. It's Guy Pearce.
Oh, okay.
That one's from 2002. I'm kind of surprised you haven't seen it, actually. It's not bad.
Hmm. Yeah, I've
Um,
never heard of it, I don't think.
Yeah, that one's just the time machine. And then, okay, you got Keanu Reeves in his, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, the original. And then the reboot, Bill and Ted Face the Music, where they're like, that one came out like a year ago in like
Yeah.
2020. And then there's A Wrinkle in Time, which was okay for the remake in the movie theater. I don't know. I'm not a big Wrinkle in Time person.
Yeah, I was kind of confused by that movie, but whatever.
Yeah, it's one of those like, oh, it was a classic book, so let's make it into a movie.
Just like they did with like Inkheart, it never quite worked.
Oh, Inkheart with Brendan Fraser. Yeah.
Yeah.
That one's a really good concept because it's like the books come to life kind of thing, right? Which sounds
Yeah.
cool. But I don't remember it being all that amazing. I like Journey to the Center of the Earth better for his movies. Okay, so other ones that have to do with like you talked about, some of them have to do with the predictions. So there's like Predestination, which is with Ethan Hawke, and it's more like about a cop that's pursuing the one criminal that has eluded him throughout time. Which that reminds me of Minority Report. I don't know if I have that somewhere, but Minority Report with Tom Cruise, and they like had precogs that were supposed to predict all the crimes that were going to happen.
Oh, okay. I haven't seen that one either.
Oh, that was really good.
I think it's on my watch list. I just haven't watched it yet.
It was so like ahead of its time, where it's like they were using biometrics and stuff, like eyeball scanning, and when
Yeah.
that had really been talked about a lot. I liked it. It's good. Um, there's See You Yesterday. See You Yesterday. Two teenage science prodigies spend every spare minute working on their latest homemade invention, backpacks that enable time travel. When one of their older brothers is killed, they put their unfinished project to the test to save him. It
Yeah.
came out in 2019, and it stars a bunch of, to be honest, like black actors that I don't know, and then Michael J. Fox.
Yeah. Yeah,
um,
I've seen that one. It was pretty good. I liked it.
oh, you had seen that one. Okay.
Yeah. I saw it on Netflix. I don't know if it's still on Netflix, but it was
Nice.
good and I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I'll pretty much give anything a try that like has some sort of time travel.
Yeah.
And Don't Let Go is a 2019 movie about a man whose family dies in what appears to be a murder, and then he gets a phone call from his supposedly dead niece. He has to find out if she's a ghost or not. Yeah, different.
Yeah. Wow.
I don't think I've seen that. Don't Let Go, it's called. Um, Terminator. Those are classic ones that depict whatever it is where you try and do something, and then because you've always done it that way, it always has to happen that way. Kind of
Yeah.
time travel. Yeah. Um, oh, and then I did get into some time loop ones that I like to talk about. I haven't seen Palm Springs. It's apparently a movie about two wedding guests that develop a budding romance while living the same day over and over. So a
Yeah.
rom-com meets, yeah, Groundhog Day, and that one has Andy Samberg and Camila Mendes from Riverdale.
Yeah. It was good. It was a very light-hearted like version of like a time loop movie.
Damn, you have seen everything I haven't seen.
One of us has seen everything. Put us together and we've seen everything.
I know our brain power together is definitely magnified because I'm like, wait, I get that old reference. And you're
Yeah.
like, no, I've seen that movie. Yeah. So, yeah, Groundhog Day, of course, which I honestly don't know if I've really seen in its entirety, so sue me. Happy Death Day. The mystery spot is the supernatural episode I was talking about earlier,
Yeah.
where Sam basically wakes up every day and his brother Dean ends up dying that day on a forever time loop, and he's trying to get out of it so that Dean doesn't die every day.
Yeah.
And also is like privy to one of my favorite lines from Dean, where like Dean was like, well, how did I die yesterday? And Sam's like, you got hit by a car. And he's like, did it look cool? And he's like, you peed yourself. And he's like, got hit by a car. Of course I peed myself.
Yes. I love that. Yeah.
Oh, he's so good. Time Trap. I did know you've seen this one. A
Yeah.
professor enters a cave, yeah, and goes missing, and his students go looking for him, and they go missing as well. I still haven't seen that.
Yeah, it was really good. It was another like different take on like a time travel movie.
Which is always interesting. It's just the same way I'll always want to see someone's like depiction of the afterworld. You know what I mean? It's just like always like, oh, cool. How do you see it? All right, good enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, romance time loops is a big trope. This I haven't seen. When We First Met. It's a rom-com starring Adam Devine and Alexandra Daddario. who we call the hot girl in our house usually. She's got those gorgeous blue eyes and those big boobies, you know.
Not her brother from
Oh,
Shadowhunters,
oh, yeah, exactly. Like gorgeousness runs in their family. I think.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, so that one's about oh yeah, Adam Devine, he's so funny. Plays a guy who has a bad first date and he gets a chance to have a do-over and over and over. So yeah, it's one of those get the girl time loops. And another one like that is called Time Freak. Also one called About Time. And that one was like all the men in his family, Tim Lake possesses the power to travel in time. With the advice of his father, he uses his special ability to pursue his romantic interest, Mary. Rachel McAdams is in that one.
Okay, I've seen the cover of that movie, but I never really knew what it was about.
Oh, well, also I feel like they even gave it like two different names. Maybe if I read that sentence back, some places I saw it was called Time Freak, other places it was called About Time. Don't think it was that popular, to be honest, but it's one of Rachel McAdams' time travel movies.
Yeah, I think I've seen it called About Time.
About Time, yes. And then she's also in The Time Traveler's Wife. Anyone that listens to Wine and Crime knows that Kenyon is not a fan of movies that are The Time Traveler's Wife, The Hitman's Bodyguard's Wife, you know, all the wife movies.
Yeah, they have names too.
Yeah. And the third one that Rachel McAdams is in is Midnight in Paris with Owen Wilson, which I haven't seen, but I had heard of.
Yeah.
Where, yeah, I didn't know it was about a time loop. It's like he's on a trip to Paris with his fiance's family, and then Owen Wilson, a nostalgic screenwriter, finds himself mysteriously going back to the 1920s every day at midnight. So, I don't know. Interesting. We'll have
Yeah,
to watch.
weird.
I'll be watching only time travel movies for the next 3 weeks. No.
Yes.
Project Almanac. David Raskin and his friends discover his dead father's time machine's design. They get the machine started, but their joy turns to horror when they find out the results of their immature actions. I don't know. It's from 2015. I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, I like those that always have like the ramifications of time travel. Those are all pretty interesting too.
Exactly. It's like you can't have a movie where you just invent time travel and nothing goes wrong. That's not realistic.
Yeah.
Pardon me. And lastly, for movies, Looper. In the near future, the mob sends their victims back in time to get them executed by the Loopers. Joe, one such Looper, finds himself to be the victim of his own actions. That one stars Joseph Gordon-Levitt. And when I say that, it kind of reminds me of watching Tenet, which I thought I had on this list, but maybe I didn't, with Denzel Washington's son.
Yeah.
What's yeah, that was good. I'd have to watch it again though. Very hard.
Yeah. That's the thing about time travel movies. They're one of the only movie genres where you really have to watch them more than once to get them.
Especially because it's what Christopher Nolan, so everybody
Yeah.
was like, "Yeah, really hard to hear what you guys are saying over all the music and stuff." It's very difficult, but
Yeah.
it was good. It was really good. Oh, so did we get to this last time where I had you open up one of the links that I sent you, where it was like instances of proof of time travel? Um,
Yes. The like video link.
this one was a list of pictures. So
Oh,
it
yeah.
actually was like the third link in the picture in the email. I started talking about one called the time traveling hipster.
Yeah.
Okay, did you pull it up?
Yeah. I have it in front of me now.
Okay, so folks, the time traveling hipster is a picture from 1941. It's in Canada, it's in British Columbia in BC, at a reopening ceremony for a bridge. So it's a black and white photograph. Everybody in it is, pretty much dressed to the nines, as we would call it now, because they're always wearing like hats, suits, dress pants, dress shoes, whatever.
Yeah. There's ties and stuff like that.
Exactly. Everyone's looking pretty dapper, except for the one dude who looks like he's wearing a printed tee that has like the letter M on it, some weird shades, and like a sweater over top that's like half zipped up or something. He looks like he's almost wearing like a hoodie. It is kind of
Yeah.
weird. Yeah.
Yeah, those are like by far the weirdest sunglasses I've ever seen. They're like the ones that have like the enclosure on like the side, so they look like the not like the aviator sunglasses, but the ones that aviators wore.
Or like someone who's like snowboarding or something where you have to have all the sun blocked out on your peripherals, every side. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I googled it a little bit because they were like, "Oh yeah, it's all available at this time," and I was like, "But was it?" And then when you do look up old sunglasses, it's weird because some of them do have, yeah, like a little side part where the earpiece is. So
Yeah, they look like swimming goggles, but sunglasses.
the whole thing he just looks out of place when you just look at him and you look at everybody else. I think, yeah, it's just
Yeah.
like, what? So there's that. And then some of them will be like sculptures, like the ancient astronaut looking sculpture from Salamanca, Spain, where it's something you might see on Ancient Aliens, the show, because it's like carving, and the rock, and it looks like a guy wearing a spacesuit, a pack, like a jetpack, a helmet, the whole deal.
Yeah.
And it's kind of hard to explain, but
Yeah, it looks very like cliche astronaut looking.
exactly. It makes everything makes me reconsider people, seeing chariots of fire coming from the sky. It's like UFOs? They have fire. Yeah. So there's that. There is the there's one on that list too that's like a statue that looks like it's depicting a laptop. And it actually comes up in a video I reference later, so we'll get to that one a little bit more then when you can look at it better.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then there's someone called the Time Surfer, and that was another old black and white photograph taken in Canada, over 100 years old. And again, everyone's dressed up in like suits and jackets and hats, except for this one guy who looks like he's just wearing like some board shorts and like a t-shirt, a baggy t-shirt. He's got like a mop of hair and he's not wearing a hat like anyone else. And
Yeah, he looks very out of place.
exactly. And those ones I'm like, I could kind of go either way because, if you're just like a kind of a poor worker guy, like maybe you didn't have the best clothes. They just kind of look like, baggy clothing. So, but
Yeah.
it's, yeah, sometimes in the picture they'll be like, oh, look, it looks like that one person is kind of pointing to them, and maybe they're saying they're looking out of place too, but for the most part, not a lot of people are really looking at them, so it's hard to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, they literally have everything on that list as I sent it to you from pocketlinked.com. It was so-called proof of time travel, but some of them are almost on there just to be funny. Like this said the dabbing W this said the dabbing World War II soldier, but it was like a still from filming the movie Dunkirk where a guy was just in his costume and he was dabbing.
Yeah.
Just gets you for a second. And then we all have seen the lists that focus on celebrities that happen to look like an old photograph, possibly proving that they're time travelers.
Yeah, I love those.
I know, they're just kind of fun. You're like, likely not, but.
Yeah.
So it includes everyone from Greta Thunberg, Jimmy Fallon, Johnny Depp, Vladimir Putin. There's two pictures of him, one from 19 or supposedly, one from 1920 and one from 1941, and they were both soldiers. So that was kind of cool. They were like, he's always been a soldier. No.
Yeah. My favorite's always Keanu Reeves, though.
Yeah, I have him on here because there's definitely one that really looks like him. Like they are convincing, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Justin Timberlake, Ellen DeGeneres. The one that looks like Maggie Gyllenhaal is actually someone famous as well. It's a picture of Rose Wilder Lane, who is Laura Ingalls Wilder's daughter, the one who wrote the Little House on the Prairie books.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Laura Ingalls Wilder. So yeah, they think her daughter Rose looks like Maggie Gyllenhaal, and she does kind of. If you're looking at the list, like it's similar. Or I kind of got these from all over, to be honest. They're not all on that list.
Yeah, it was like, I only see and Putin
Oh, I think
and
I
Greta
probably looked
Thunberg.
at a separate. Yes, I did end up clicking on a separate list and looking through them too.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a bunch. John Travolta, Donald Trump, Donald Trump looks like General Patton. A guy named General Douglas MacArthur looks like Bruce Willis. Jesus Christ. Vincent Van Gogh and Chuck Norris, which I thought was a stretch.
Yeah, that one doesn't seem very likely to me.
Especially when one's a painting, self-portrait, yeah, and Van Gogh. But Jack Black and the Barber of Seville, Nicolas Cage, Jay-Z, Jon Stewart, Charlie Sheen, Alec Baldwin, Rupert Grint, Keanu Reeves, Hank Azaria, Jeffrey Tambor, Hugh Grant, and Tommy Lee Jones all have lookalikes in the past.
Yeah.
There's also a multitude of paintings and pictures where they claim that people look like they're holding a cell phone like up to their ear or either like down in their hands and they're looking down at it. And to me, those ones are just a lot less credible because it just looks like they're holding something up. It's impossible to tell what it is. Or they're
Yeah.
holding.
It's probably just like books or paper.
Or sometimes people had like those old fashioned like hearing aids that they could be holding in their ear. Stuff like that. Yeah. Okay,
Okay.
guys. That's all the time we
That's
have
so
for
fun.
this week on Castles and Cryptids, which is why we're gonna have to make it a two-parter. Whoop, whoop,
Yeah.
whoop.
Otherwise, this thing's gonna be super, super long. So,
Ain't nobody got time for that.
yeah.
Us common folk don't have the time travel gene yet.
Yeah. So,
All
we'll
right.
catch you next week for part 2.
Yes. Keep it cryptid. Cryptic.
Yeah.
Keep it time travel-y.
Yeah. The timey-wimey machine.
Keep it timey-wimey. All right, bye.
Bye.
Whew.
This has been Castles and Cryptids. You can listen to our podcasts on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Anchor, Breaker, and Pocket Casts. Our episodes are also uploaded to our YouTube channel. You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook. And don't forget to check out our Patreon page to view all of our tiers. Become a Patreon supporter today to unlock monthly bonus episodes and behind-the-scenes content. You can also take our poll and let us know what kind of bonus content you'd like to see in the future. On our website, you can listen to all of our episodes, as well as view pictures for each of our segments. Our music is by Kobe Off Air. Thanks for listening.